Hello, 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 hello. Remember, Mary was at the North Pole. She walks 10 kilometers south, then 10 kilometers east, then 10 kilometers north, and of course she's back at the North Pole. And the question is, are there other points on Earth for which it's also true that if you walk 10 kilometers south, then 10 kilometers east, and then 10 kilometers north, that you're back at the same point where you started? And the answer is yes, there are an infinite number of such points. Look at me. You see the Earth here. This is the equator. The latitude everywhere on the equator is 0 degrees. That's the way we define our coordinate system. And circles parallel to the equator, like this one and this one, are called parallels. So on this parallel, the latitude of all these points is the same. The latitude of the parallel of the equator itself is 0 degrees. Since these parallels, as you will see, are very close to the South Pole, the latitude of this parallel will be very close to minus 90 degrees, because minus 90 degrees is the latitude of the South Pole. I have here a parallel. You will see it's very close to the South Pole. We will be very specific about that. And this parallel has a radius r. I will refer to that as the inner parallel. Here is a parallel which is at a distance of 10 kilometers from the inner one. So if you walk from any point of this outer parallel straight south, you will end up on the inner parallel. Now let us make r such that 2 pi r, which is the circumference of this parallel, is 10 kilometers. So you start at A, you walk 10 kilometers south, you end up on the inner parallel. You now go 10 kilometers east, or you could go 10 kilometers west and you are back at this point. You go 10 kilometers north and you're back at A. Perfect solution. But there are an infinite number of points on the outer parallel, and each of those points will meet our condition. So there are an infinite number of solutions. But there is even more. Imagine now that 2 pi r is not 10 kilometers, but that 2 pi r is 5 kilometers. So r is twice as small, and the distance of the outer parallel to the inner one is always 10 kilometers. It also moves a little. Now, you go from the outer parallel to the inner parallel, so you walk 10 kilometers south. You go 10 kilometers east or west, that means you go twice around this parallel and you're back here. Because 2 times 5 kilometers is 10 kilometers. You go 10 kilometers north and you're back at A. So that's another infinite number of solutions. But that's not all. If we take 2 pi r equals 10 divided by n as in Nancy, and if n is an integer, then all those radii for the inner parallel would be proper solutions. If n is 1, then r is 0.8 kilometers. And so the outer parallel would have a radius of 10.8 kilometers. If n is 10, the radius of the inner parallel is only 160 meters from the South Pole. So the radius of the outer parallel is then 10.16 kilometers. And the higher n is, the closer the inner parallel will be to the South Pole, and the closer the radius of the outer parallel would be to 10 kilometers. Some wise viewers may say, well, haven't you ignored somehow the curvature of the Earth? Shouldn't that come into the problem? The answer is no. You can treat the whole problem as if the surface of the Earth in this region, which is within 10 kilometers of the South Pole, is flat. This will make all flat Earth people very happy. I made a simple calculation. I hope I didn't make a mistake. You can check that. I took a radius of 10 kilometers from the South Pole, and I calculated the circumference as measured on the surface of the Earth. Then I took a radius of 10 kilometers, not a straight line, but following the surface of the Earth with a little curvature. And I did the same again. I calculated again the circumference of that circle. They differ by 1 millimeter. So I hope I've convinced you that yes, the flatlanders are right. You can consider this problem as totally flat. You're only within roughly 10 kilometers of the South Pole. Isn't this amazing? Number of solutions is infinity plus 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 infinity, and all are near the South Pole. And there's only one solution in the northern hemisphere, and that is the North Pole itself. Have a nice day, take care, and of course, that goes without saying,